person is talking to an inanimate object as if they are listening. But this time around, it does not end at an inanimate object. When a person speaks to an inanimate object, when a person speaks to an absentee, that is, you are speaking to another person who is not there to listen to you. When you speak to an inanimate object, or when you speak to an absentee, or when you speak to a dead person, however you speak, and the person or thing you are referring to cannot hear you, what you are using is apostrophe. Let us take, for instance, that particular moment when you rush into the kitchen to maybe scoop a few pieces of meat into your mouth, and then you hear footsteps. You try to rush to open the door, and the door refuses to open. You will find yourself begging the door. What did I do to you today? Please open. This is an instance of apostrophe. You find yourself talking to something that does not listen to you. Now, and there's other examples. Oh, death, be not proud. Death is not there to listen to you. Rain, rain, go away. These are instances of apostrophe. And you should know that apostrophe is totally different from personification. All right, the next one, oxymoron. Take note that these two are also confusing. Oxymoron. When you talk about oxymoron, oxymoron refers to the placement of two opposing words, or you say two contradictory qualities. When you place two words or two qualities that are opposite, that are not supposed to appear in the same line, they are not supposed to work together. Two things that do not agree, but you forcefully bring the two of them together for a reason, because you are using figurative expression. You refer to that as oxymoron. Take, for instance, here somebody says, the deadly angel was here. The word angel is supposed to be positive. Whenever you mention an angel, you picture. If you remember what we talked about imagery in our previous classes, when you mention an angel, the picture you draw in your mind is a picture of a beautiful thing, a picture of heaven, a picture of something pleasant, right? But then there is another adjective here, the deadly angel. Is it then possible that an angel will be deadly? Now, these two words are placed and they are contradictory. Deadly and angel are not supposed to be together, but they are forcefully brought together for a reason. That is why it is oxymoron. And that is why we are talking about figures of speech. It takes somebody who thinks deeply to understand that when you use these two words, you are trying to make something clear. Or somebody says, the sweet bitter encounter cannot be forgotten. The sweet bitter. We are talking about something that is sweet and bitter at the same time. Is that possible? Ordinarily, it is not possible. But figuratively, it is. There is something, there is an idea that this person is trying to pass across for you to have used these two opposite qualities, opposite adjectives to talk about a particular thing. Sweet, bitter encounter. This is oxymoron. But then, when you talk about antithesis, remember I said they're confused. This is the placement of two opposite qualities. But when you talk about antithesis is the presentation, the placement of two opposite ideas, not qualities this time around, two opposite ideas for the purpose of contrast. You place two things that are different. Why? Because you want to show the difference between the two of them. You want to show the different things that are possible to come from each of them. Let us take, for instance, when somebody says, united we stand, divided we fall. These are two ideas. United we stand is an idea on its own. Divided we fall is an idea on its own. But you bring the two of them together to tell the person listening to you of the difference between the two situations. That when we are divided, we are likely to fall. And when we are united, we are likely to stand. That is antithesis. The second one, study and pass, play and fail. This is an idea on its own. The same thing with this, it is an idea on its own. But you bring the two of them together, placement of two opposite ideas for the sake of contrast to show the difference between the two of them. Remember, for oxymoron, we say the placement of two opposite qualities or words. For this one, placement of two opposite ideas. All right, the next one, euphemism. What is euphemism in literature? When you mention euphemism is the presentation of harsh or unpleasant words in a milder form. They are words. These words are there in the dictionary. They are words that are known, but you don't find it easy pronouncing them. There are such words. We have them, but whenever you want to mention them, you find out that you are it makes you feel embarrassed to say them out. Let us take, for instance, that you are in a meeting, and imagine that you are the chairman of the meeting. And during the meeting, you imagine yourself just standing up and telling the people listening to you, "Excuse me, I want to go and shit." How does that sound? Embarrassing, right? But it is a word that everybody knows. Now, you will find out that at times you want to substitute those words with another word, with other words that are milder. That is why you hear somebody say, "Let me visit the small room. Let me visit the restroom." This time around, it sounds as if you are going for something ceremonial, but it's the same shit. Just that you are presented it in a way that it's mild. You will refer to that as euphemism. So you talk about something being euphemistic whenever you present an unpleasant or a harsh word in a mild form. All right, and the last one we have here, hyperbole. Hyperbole is when you make something appear bigger, when you make something appear or to sound larger than it ordinarily is, or you are making something to appear smaller than it should be, or you are making something appear worse than it actually is. We refer to that as hyperbole. For example, when somebody says, maybe a girl is trying to tell you about a guy that she met on the way, trust women with this, and she tells you that his head is as big as coconut. Is that possible? It's not possible. You are making something appear worse than it is, or you are making something appear bigger than it is. Or you are telling somebody, that very day that you provoked me, the tears from my eyes filled a bucket. It is not possible. But you are trying to emphasize on the seriousness of something, and you are using something larger, or something smaller, or something more serious, or something worse than it is. I cried an ocean the day I was heartbroken. It is not possible that somebody will cry an ocean. You have presented it in a way that it appears bigger. It is for emphasis. All right, these are the 10 we'll be taking for today. In our next class, we'll be taking another 10. And with this, I believe that we're able to achieve the objectives that are here. And let's say that the first one, by the end of the lesson, you should be able to identify the 10 figuratives treated in any literary work. That is to say, these 10 figuratives that have been presented here, whenever you meet any of them in a work, you should be able to identify them. You go back and listen to the lesson, to the teaching, and be able to spot these figuratives whenever they are presented. And the second one says you should be able to give examples of expressions. And of course, you are doing that for me in your assignment. You should be able to give examples of expressions with the figuratives, with these same figuratives that have been treated. And then for your assignment, I expect you to present 2 sentences to exemplify each of the 10 figures of speech that have been treated here. There are 10 of them. For each of them, give me 2 sentences to represent them. And with that, I'll say thank you.